Hey,
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Hey, Joe. Hey,
What's up?
Will.
What's up? What's up?
hey.
How's it going? Just another Bear
I
Thursday
love
for
Bitcoin
8
under
weeks in a row.
30K.
How can you complain when we've had it so good? And in general, I feel that this is part of natural cycles. For all the crypto people that are not watching the stock market and the economy, it's pretty grim. But what can you expect when you print so many dollars? So I think things are going to get interesting over the next few months.
I'm just glad I don't have any Shopify or Peloton.
Yeah, right. It's like Netflix or oh my God, like people are like, oh, crypto is so volatile, but that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think Shopify's off 80%. It was like 85% maybe.
But so are most alts, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
down like 80, 90%. So nothing new. What's the meme where it's like first time, right?
Right.
Cool.
Hey, John, welcome.
What's
Hey,
up,
John.
everyone? How you doing?
How's it going?
Great today.
This is pretty awesome. I think we can officially say that you are the first Twitter verified people we've had on our Twitter space. So we're blessed with your ticks.
Wow. I feel special.
Magical.
Someday
Yeah.
we'll have check marks too.
It's coming. It's coming. So look, let's kick this off. I mean, look, Joe and John, to give you a little bit of background, thank you so much for being here. It's fantastic that we were able to have Marshall on Lunar Crush live, and to have a relationship with you guys is just absolutely fantastic, and we love everything that you're doing on with Lunar Crush. And we thought, what better way to flip the script now and invite you onto ours. So thanks for being here.
Of course, we're happy to be here, man. Anything to support you. Anything to support you guys.
So look, we started this 4 episodes ago, and it's been picking up really nicely. We started with we had Yelena McWilliams, who was the former chairman of the FDIC. So pretty high profile guest for episode 1, thanks to Arena. And then we had Chris from Yellow Card, which is an app roll now across Africa. And then our last episode was a bit of a group team community update. And, we wanted to bring more guests from outside our ecosystem to, spread the good word of everything that you're doing, because I think more people need to know about Lunar Crush. And, we know that from our community that they absolutely love your platform, and they're always, it's always a frequent topic of conversation in some of the Telegram channels that we're in, saying, look, how can we get in the top 10 this week? And I think everything just absolutely imploded when Proton and Metal were both in the top 10 at the same time. And we were quick to pull that screenshot across the board. So, so look, let's kick it off. I mean, the topic of the space essentially is about social communities and Web3, and that obviously is massively obviously within your wheelhouse. But just to get us started, if you wanted to introduce yourself to our listeners today, and specifically outside of Web3 and crypto, what did you start your career in, and how did you get into the space? So to Joe and John respectively, that question.
Do you want to kick it off, John, or you want me to go?
I'll go. I mean, for me, I've always been interested in investing. I mean, ever since I was probably 5 years old. I got into baseball cards, traded cards. I still love my baseball cards to this day. And now a lot of those mechanics are evident in NFTs, even in quite a consistent manner. Got into stocks when I was young. Got into crypto back in 2013. Was talking to some friends about it, and I was curious. Started looking into it and went, "Oh my God, this is going to change the world." Really started looking at different projects early on. I was interested in things like like Monero from a privacy perspective way back when that launched. Interested in what Litecoin was doing way back. Interested in it. Wow, Ethereum, this like world computer. What's going on? This is cool. And a lot of that curiosity led to ended up chatting with Joe all the time about crypto. We had worked together at the time at another job, but really had this curiosity ever since, and have not looked back. And I'd say where this kind of led to Ludacrush was man, we're discovering a lot of stuff on social, but we have no idea of what exactly is are there more people talking about Bitcoin today? Are there less? What's the sentiment like? Are people engaged in these posts? We started asking these questions, and I'd almost say when we first started, it was more like we were building this tool for ourselves, trying to understand the market as investors, trying to understand wow, this is really powerful information, this social information. And I think, there's 4 of us at the time that got together and we're experimenting with this and started collecting information and then trying to build an interface on top of all that information and trying to make sense of it. We started realizing we have a product here. We have a company. This is interesting. And, it took a little while for us to leave our jobs, and then we did. And then, Joe and I went through Techstars. And then the rest was history. We haven't looked back. And I think, what was that? 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
sort of 4 years this June.
4 years. It's crazy. Yeah. So grown a little bit since then. And we're doing, we've probably never built at a rate that we're building right now. In fact, I know we haven't. We are launching something big every week for as far as I can see, it seems like. And really a lot of I'll let Joe talk more about the spam thing that we just launched that's going to fight spam, because that's such a big topic. But I'd say we're just, we're listening to the community and we're constantly iterating. And it's interesting. It's almost on 2 fronts, because on one, we're trying to build the greatest analytics tool that we possibly can, because crypto sorely needs analytics. And there's so many dimensions to analytics in this space. And there's, what we do is kind of interesting, because it sort of bridges that Web 2, Web 3 gap in a way where, there's a lot going on. We're on Twitter right now. That's a Web 2 product right there. Right. And so there's still things happening. And we're sort of kind of at the convergence, I guess, of Web 2 and Web 3. And there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with that. So that's the high level story. And Joe, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, John's actually the one that introduced me to Bitcoin. It was 2015, and it was actually the bottom of the market, which was nice. So I got some Bitcoin at $195, and I think I sold it at $201. So that was fantastic. But just kind of finding that and understanding a little bit and reading the white paper, it was okay, this is a disruption of a lot of different things, and it kind of felt like it was the same thing as when the internet's kind of coming out, and you're going okay, it's not just going to disrupt one thing; it's going to disrupt everything, and there's never been anything like it, and so we don't know how to value it, and it kind of feels the same thing with Web3 and crypto, and why so many people, especially right now, are having a great time just dunking on the space, and it's because they still don't understand it. And eventually they will come around, because it's going to be integrated and composable across all of the different tools that they use, and the apps that they use are going to still look the exact same, except, there's not going to need to be, especially in things like finance, a 50,000 person company behind, providing you the service to move your money around, and costing you a lot of money. It's going to be some sort of, DAO driven, community driven platform that's out there, and you get to share in the upside of that in a bunch of interesting ways, whereas right now the middlemen get to take all of that from you, data, money, all the value they're kind of sucking out of it. And so it's I kind of felt something like that happening. You didn't really know it at first, but you just kind of when you're starting something new, really all you're doing is looking around and going okay, are these all my gamer friends when I was a kid running this industry, or is this the lawyers in the suits? And it's okay, it looks like it's the gamer and tech folks. Okay, I'm definitely down for that. And then it's like when you're trying to start something, you're just looking at the market and trying to understand, hey, like, where are the gaps right now, and what is going on? And when Ethereum came out, it was like, holy shit, like, how do you know what project actually has value and what doesn't, when maybe the team's not even doxed, or they're pseudo anonymous, or, you know, you see a couple of people tweeting, you know, to buy Bitcoin private, you know, and you're like, okay, maybe that one's going to go up. And then you know, look at, you know, the API coming through and you're like, okay, actually, like, that is a very small community compared to, you know, Bitcoin. And that community started like 3 weeks ago, where Bitcoin's been around for 8 years at this point. And so we just felt like there needed to be some more tools and fundamental tools out there for people to understand a little bit more about what was going on. And we wanted to create transparency and really just push this industry forward, because we believed in the change that it can create and the change that it is creating. And so we've just been really lucky to stay out there and stay consistent and build through a couple of bear markets. And we're excited to build through this next one, because I think there was a lot of much needed change that is going to come on the outset of this one that you know, we'll I think finally push it over the edge. Even though you can't say it's been pushed over the edge, but I think we're still not there yet. So I'm excited to keep on building.
Awesome, thanks for that. No, it's super interesting, and I think we're feeling a lot of the same things at the minute. But you know, I know personally from behind the walls in our camp that despite, you know, things that are happening in the market, nothing changes for us. We're just head down and we just keep charging forwards. And you know, I think that really comes from just a deeper belief on everything that people are doing in the space. And I've been around for about a year and a half with Metal and Proton, but you know, the positivity and the energy of the people that you work with is just incredible. And I think that's what just keeps it alive. People keep driving forwards to push and achieve what they're doing. And you know, it's just a fantastic space to be in, no doubt. I think the next part, and just to set the stage a little bit, was that in terms of Lunar Crush as a platform, could you just give a little bit of explanation to the listeners of how Lunar Crush works from a top line perspective?
Sure. Yeah. So Lunar Crush, we're a social intelligence company for cryptos. What we're doing is we are aggregating all of the world's social media data that is crypto specific right now. And what we're doing is we're looking at places like Twitter and Reddit and YouTube and all of the news out there, and across 3,500 different cryptocurrencies in real time. What we're doing is we're pulling down all of that data and trying to make sense of it and trying to kind of distill that noise into some sort of signal. And so as that data comes through, we get really interesting information. We understand which news articles are trending and who are the specific influencers or KOLs that are, you know, posting about some of these things. And so it kind of goes back to, you know, what you were saying a little bit at the beginning of how you guys are using Lunar Crush. There isn't, you know, as we've grown this over the years, you know, there's not just one use case for what we have. Like a lot of the projects are out there using it to understand, you know, what does my community look like? Who are the people that are coming on board and starting to talk about what we're doing? And from an investor or retail standpoint, people are looking at it and saying, you know, hey, like, you know, I didn't know this project before, and now it's in the top 10, you know, alt rank or top 10 from a social like mention standpoint. Where when you're looking at the market traditionally, you might be sorting by market cap, or, you know, you might be looking at it in a different way. So what we're trying to do is just kind of uncover, you know, some of the potential discovery around there around really awesome projects that people haven't heard about, because we're trying to kind of distill the quality to the top, because that's kind of what's going to drive this industry forward. And so all sorts of different use cases. We have an API that we're kind of reworking right now. It was actually the first thing that we launched, and we have exchanges that use that to determine, you know, who should they list next that has the, you know, the best community that maybe their competitors don't have. So lots of different use cases, but really the idea is, you know, to just kind of create this transparency so that people can understand that, you know, without a community, there is no crypto, and that community is a kind of massive standpoint where that's driving a lot of the value in crypto. And then very shortly here, actually, we're going to have Lunar Crush for NFTs, which, you know, nothing, you know, if you think that community drives tokens and crypto, it's the only thing driving the NFT communities. So a lot of fun stuff, and then on top of that, a lot of other things will be launched here, hopefully sooner than later, depending on how quickly we can keep building. If we launch a thing a week, like John is saying, who knows? Maybe it'll only be 3 weeks before we have another massive announcement.
How many have you got in your team then now?
16.
Oh wow, and it started with the two of you, and then it's just been building and building, right?
Yeah, there were four of us to start, and we've got up as big as 20. But what we've kind of found is it's not necessarily the quantity of people; it's the passion and the talent that specific individuals can bring, and sometimes finding a couple of people that are so passionate about what you're doing and want to be a part of it. And if as a leader, you can make sure that everyone is feeling like they are a part of it and they actually have a stake in what you're doing, then what you find is that you kind of have this like 1 + 1 = 3. And in our case right now, it's like 1 + 1, is equaling 50. So we've been pretty fortunate to find some pretty amazing people.
Yeah, it was, we're in the process of like mapping out for a new site. And I was just doing some research on a couple of other projects, and one Web3 project on their careers page essentially had an asterisk at the bottom of the page, and it said hide from the community. And I swear I checked on this, and it was like CTOs, directors of marketing, community managers, developers, and like over 50% of these people were already active in that project's community before they actually joined the team, which I think is, it's really cool that people's passions are coming before, and then essentially they're stepping into jobs that they already love.
I think that's what we were talking about on our live stream with you guys and Marshall was that very thing. And I think that's kind of what I think pushed me over the edge of thinking about some of that stuff even more was, why would you hire from anywhere else outside of the community that's already a part of what you're doing? Because I think it's the learning gap in Web3 is difficult, and everyone can learn it. All they have to do is dedicate some time. But if you can find people that already understand, they've used like wormholes, they use the bridge, they have a lot of wallets, they've also know what your product does, and they're a part of that community. It's, it takes that onboarding time down to a very, very small percentage of what normally it is.
And that's like one of your prerequisites, Marshall, right? For hiring people.
You got to be involved in the community. Crypto is about community. I'm not a fan of Michael Saylor tweets. I saw a tweet that he wrote today that was, something about you may have almost achieved it if you created a crypto and people are using it. And I was criticizing you. Those aren't words for crypto. It's about we, right? It's about what we build together. So crypto, if you have a cryptocurrency and you have one holder, you don't have anything. Right? You have to have a community of people, and the people that are going to be really passionate, I've found in the space, are the people that just show up and are like, what can I do?
Yeah. I think as well, like a big thing that and I think Joe and John, you can probably answer this better than we can, but despite the sort of, upside of financial gain for a lot of these social communities that are supporting projects, I just see in general, like that they're working for these brands for free, right? And a lot of the time it's not always focused on, pump the price and stuff, but they're really trying to like support the overall industry or what a project's doing in terms of its technology. And, I've worked in multiple industries from, retail, sport, hospitality, and I've never seen like this community of brand fans get behind something so strongly.
I think that there's a different perspective on it. I mean, like a few things, like for one, the smartest people out there in the world are looking at this space going, this is my future. Right? They don't care where it's at this second because they believe it's the future. They believe it's early. They believe that it's early days and that there's a ramp ahead that will keep the entire rest of their life. And I think, it's interesting too, because if I gave you the short-term perspective of, oh my God, look at everyone's price. Look at all the layer ones. Look at everything's down so much. And oh, let's panic some more. Why don't we? If I told you that on one hand, yet at the same time frame as that, that the number of people that are talking about crypto has gone up more than 400% over the last year. And that's down from 800% just a few weeks ago, right? So it's down from a 800% gain, and it's now only a measly 400% more people talking about crypto than were a year ago. And by the way, a year ago, that was an all-time high. So if you kind of look at it that way, and you look at the fact that, like right now, a lot of people are experiencing their first downturn ever in crypto. If you've been here since, I don't know, say the start, 2010, I don't know, you've probably experienced a dozen, at least 3 or 4, if you've gotten a little later. And these were all times that everyone said even Bitcoin was going to die, right? And so I think if you look at this from the perspective of the younger individuals out there are trying to learn, experiment, build stuff. What is it like? How do I mint an NFT? How do I sell an NFT? How do I promote an NFT? How do I build a community around that NFT? It's not about money. It eventually will make people money, the people that build value, that keep focused space. But I think those that come in, I'm glad in a sense that a lot of the market's down, because it's showing people that you should not come into any space in your life and say, hey, I'm going to put $100 in and I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow. And if it doesn't, I'm going to call it a scam. Like, that has to stop. And I think it's in a sense, it's like a rite of passage for some of these people to get burned in a way because they have the wrong perspective. Crypto is a space that will outlive everyone listening right now. I mean, and that's how we need to build. That's how we need to operate. That's how we need to function. That's how we need to plan. And I think, again, when you look at the size of the community and the growth of it, it's straight up. It's just straight up. It's like a never-ending uptrend. So just don't forget that. It would be my big statement there.
I think that's so cool that, from your guys' perspective, that's what I love about this, about this episode is that, and the Lunar Crush perspective, is that your chart is really only up, right? Like the social mentions and engagements and people getting involved in crypto. And I'm an early crypto guy, right? I was around when nobody cared. The meetups, the groups, the events. The first real big event was in 2013, right? Prior to that, it was all like really small little niche groups where it's like 5 or 6 people. And I'm not joking, right? Like in a food court in a mall or in a hacker space or something like that. And I see some people, people that are here that have been there, during that time, listening in the space. It's really, we've gone from like 0 to 100. And now on Twitter, you've got the richest man in the world who's attempting to buy Twitter. The former CEO became a crypto Bitcoin maxi guy. Musk is a, altcoin, Bitcoin, just pro crypto guy. And it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. Like social crypto is going to an all-time high, and Facebook rebranded to Meta for Metaverse, which is really kind of a crypto concept. And Facebook even tried to do its own crypto and failed, which, some could maybe see that coming. But I think it's just so interesting because we have this huge curve. And like you said, John, even though some people are having this, like this is their first correction, or, people, weren't here in 2017 or saw some like really big corrections, right? The trajectory is crazy, right? Everything is going to be using crypto. And the last thing I want to say on that is just, it's evolving so rapidly. If you read Vitalik's post about soulbound tokens, and if you're in the NFT space and you're watching this stuff evolve, I think there's a lot of people in crypto that are like, I don't get NFTs, and they've been around for a while, right? The space is moving so fast, and the social graph is just like a hockey stick.
It is, and at the same time, when you layer in the fact, I think the Twitter example is a great one because it starts to make the conversation around scaling really important. Like and Facebook, how the failure, it makes that conversation really important. Like if you think about it, what you're actually saying by, Elon buying Twitter and all of that, there's also a conversation about freedom and tokenization at the same time, right? And so, if Twitter were to tokenize, what chain are they going to use? What does that look like? How would that work at that scale? Nothing has ever been built at that scale on a blockchain. And what would they put on blockchain versus not? It's the other thing. It's like when you start to think of like we've been in these early days of just blockchain development in general with a lot of experimental applications for the most part. A lot of these dApps, they don't know how to build their brand. They don't have a lot of users. They don't have a lot of transactions. And this is like unanimous across the space. Some are very successful, but most are not. And when you look at this, you start to go, wait a minute. The next leg of dApps that will be built will be far larger than the ones that have been built so far. And so you start to ask some very serious questions around what chains are they going to use? What actually has the right architecture to scale for that? And it's like you got that on one hand, and you got just hockey, like as you said hockey stick growth around community size. Layer those two things together, and it's just explosive. It's just like there's it's an entirely different story than looking at short-term movements, and it's pretty damn exciting.
Just to tag on to that, like Marshall, you're talking about the communities, right? And like I was kind of mentioning, with crypto, it's all about community, and with NFTs, it's purely community. And just like crypto kind of started really taking off once DeFi, started to mature a little bit, and people can understand like, oh, okay, I could like lend this money at this rate, and like I can be the bank a little bit, or if I need money, I could borrow it. Not over collateralized yet, but hopefully here soon. With NFTs, it's kind of the same thing. It's like if NFTs, like the fact that NFTs look the way that they do and that they're worth millions of dollars, you should inherently understand that it has nothing to do with the art. It has nothing to do with what that thing is. It just started like that because it's like, well, why not have it be something a little fun, right? But what
it's all part of the community, right? Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say, like, it's like Goblin Town. Right? Like you just want to be a goblin.
Right. I think I forget the guy who didn't want to sell his CryptoPunk for $10 million because he was like, I'll lose my identity. Who am I now? Right. And that should tell you everything that you need to know about its rights and access. It's a community. It is, the country club of the future is, a DAO that is rights and access from the NFT that you own. And people are just finding community online in a different way. And all they're trying to do is find people that are like them, that potentially want to do similar things that they want to. And hey, guess what? Now we can kind of commingle this money together and do what we want to do with it, whether we want to buy the Wu-Tang Clan album, whether or not we want to buy a golf course or the Constitution, or one day it's going to be, hey, we're going to buy this bank or whatever else. It's just a much more efficient and better way to organize, which kind of gets back to solving, the double spend problem and getting rid of the middleman. And people can access all of these amazing tools through communities, and how do you measure that, and what do you do? And so, like for us, that's what it's all about, is helping people understand whether it's to invest in a specific, token out there that you want to. Someone sends you a DM and they're like, "Hey, check out StepN," right? And you have no other place to go to see what the community looks like, or hey, which DAO do I want to join, right? There's a lot there where we want to help people understand those communities, and it doesn't stop at tokens and NFTs.
I think another thing that we've sort of been looking at the minute as well is that there's a lot of positivity in the space, but equally I think there can be quite a lot of negativity with certain social communities, and I don't think that just impacts individual projects, but I think it impacts the overall industry as a whole. What are your thoughts on that, and how does Lunar Crush play into the negative sides of things? And what do you think is, if there was one piece of advice to give to a passionate social community member behind their project, how can they work within that space to sort of combat that negativity?
That is a very loaded question. A lot of different tips there. But let's start with one thing. I mean, the space moves fast, and we measure influencers. We measure the people that have the most engagement, following, and activity. And I can tell you that those influencers, the top ones, are posting anywhere between 20 to 40 times a day, every single day. And so like that's kind of one just note right there, because so if you look at the frequency, frequency matters and quality matters to an extent. But I would say like if you're talking about like promoting your project, you can't like create a video for every tweet. You can't, go through 9 rounds of review before every social post. You can't do a video that's in a studio, a live stream, and then post it on YouTube and build your channel out, and it's going to take you a week. The frequency is too much for that. So, and the market doesn't move at that rate. The market moves in a very agile, fast manner, right? And so if you're looking to promote your product, you have to realize that frequency matters, and it's not just for fun. It's the fact that you have users in every single time zone across the world. Mm-hmm. So like how we look at it on our side is like, and we have people on our the communications and social side of our business that like that look at this from a 24/7, 365 manner. Like, at some point people need to be managing community while you're asleep, when whatever time zone you're in. So I would look at frequency that way, and I would look at your audience that way. If you look at like the old way of doing business, the majority of what businesses are captive to is their own domestic borders, right? Yeah. And so like people operate in a specific country and they have most of an audience there, and at some point then they go international, and like crypto doesn't work that way. Crypto from day one, without your choice, is international. And so I think when you look at it that way and you look at the people top projects, it means that you need to work on frequency. You need to think about your users as being everywhere. They're from all walks of life, every class, gender, race, everything. They're all over the world. They're everyone. That's a huge disruption to anyone that's traditionally worked in any form of promotion or marketing, because like there's no audience targeting. It's everyone. You might have an ideal user. It's not going to happen. But like, I think that would be my first advice, is to have like a global view. Second, I would say like deal with engagement. Like a lot of people post and go away. Like that works for the people that are following you already, and it works within your own post, but get out there in other people's posts. Like if you got a problem with someone's perspective on something, go talk about it. If someone's supporting you out there, go encourage. But like get involved. And the other thing I would say is, like the trolls are everywhere, and trolls are out there to get some action out of you, to get you angry. They want you to post negative stuff back to them, so you look bad. And the larger your account is, the more you get. It happens publicly. It happens in direct messages. It happens on Discord. It happens on Telegram. Try, and it's not always easy, but try to stay positive and try to focus on what matters, versus someone's individual opinion.
For sure. I think there's a really interesting point there you said about time zones and that global approach, and I think a lot of businesses outside of Web3 have a lot that they can learn from our industry, right? Because I think, like you said, people are so, businesses are so tied to their own geographical borders, yet as brands are getting better and better at scaling globally, and, people finding brands that they like that aren't necessarily in their country, they need to be receptive to this. And that, gets me thinking, like, I remember when we were setting up the web chat for, when I worked at Formula One in Abu Dhabi, and, our hours were like 8 a.m. till I think 5 p.m. or something like that. But you've got to remember there's a whole audience of people that are going to travel from all over the world to come to a race like this. And I think, one thing definitely that we're already doing at Metal is we do look to have that global coverage across the board, whether that's in Telegram groups, whether that's on social channels, or our customer service support. And I think you're so right. There shouldn't really be any limitations now for brands talking to their customers 24 hours a day.
I have a question for you guys. What has everything been like? The past few weeks have been really crazy, right? With Luna and UST, the whole stable coin discussion. I feel like I was the crazy guy 2 years ago in DC, like, hey, we need to regulate cryptocurrencies, but in a friendly way, and define the different types of stable coins so people don't think that they're all the same if one of them, and at the time I was thinking Tether, right, explodes, right? And we should define, like, some are kept in banks, some are algorithmic, some types of algorithmic ones are based on collateral, and some are based on seigniorage shares, or maybe nothing at all, right? But we should know, and there should be like a disclaimer. And so when everything blew up over this past couple of weeks, where Luna and UST goes into a debt spiral, right? We saw that happen. A lot of people didn't think that that could happen, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be invested, they wouldn't be holding, but greed is a powerful thing. Greed powers Bitcoin and proof of work, by the way, right? It's hard to attack because greed secures it, right? But what has it been, sorry, I'm getting to my question. What has it been like on Lunar Crush? I just became a pro member recently, which was really cool, by the way. But how have you seen a change in the social dynamic and things that are going on? Because I've been in crypto a while. I said that like a few times. Everybody knows that. But I've been in this space for a while, and I've seen sentiment, and I've never seen anything like this happen before. I've seen seigniorage-based stable coins like Nubits. Not a lot of people may remember that collapse. That was tiny. It wasn't billions of dollars. How has the sentiment and kind of the community changed? And what have you seen, running Lunar Crush? You see all the different types of sentiment. I saw something very bizarre. I really did not expect, where people were buying Luna and just burning it. What are you guys seeing in terms of like how people are evolving in their views of crypto, I guess, through social?
Multi-part answer there, Marshall. For some of the things that we did see was we have seen an increase in interest out there. Like I posted something a couple of days ago about, we had the most number of individuals ever in the history of us collecting social information, unique individuals talking out there at a time where, the market cap of the entire industry is the lowest it's been, in 6 months or a year. So it got the mainstream attention for sure. But the narrative around why Luna and Terra happened is incorrect. People think that it was, because it was algorithmic, it wasn't stable, it was backed by this other thing. Yes, that's true. But the reason that it failed is because the market making and centralized exchanges in our industry are still based on the old guard. All of the same large market making companies from, that were trading wheat and corn on the Chicago Board of Trade are also the same people that are trading cryptocurrencies. And so the reason that the peg was lost on UST was because of some sort of acute event that happened that triggered a kind of a waterfall effect of a run on the bank, which can happen to anyone. But it wasn't necessarily because of their technology or what was out there. So it's just my opinion, but my opinion is if Terra did not, or UST did not have 400 different centralized exchange pairs out there across all sorts of different, centralized exchange specifically, because it's the darling of the space and everyone wants to list it, and it was purely DEX based, we might have not seen what happened. So that is the reason that this is like my big hope for the next cycle of this is the centralized exchanges have far too much power in this space.
Centralized exchanges, you mean, not DEXs? Or
correct.
Are you saying DEXs? Okay.
No, centralized exchanges. Okay. Sorry, I don't know if I'm muffled. The centralized exchanges have far, far, far too much power. The market making folks have far, far, far too much power, and they hold that over everyone. And so this is an anomaly of that happening. And so I'm hoping that as some of this stuff gets uncovered and there's a industry debrief that, like Terra will live again, like USD or something better than that will live again. We all remember the first DAO from 2016 that blew up, and now here we are, a couple of years later. This will happen, but what needs to wash out of the space, which it's going to be difficult because of the amount of capital that these folks have, is just the stranglehold of these the markets and all of the projects kind of needing to think they need to go over to this side of, hey, we need to be traded, we need to be out there, we need to do this, but now you're beholden to these exchanges. And so, anyone that's out there thinking about launching something, I would say walk very lightly around that path and maybe choose a different one because they're out there now.
I just want to preach for a moment because you got me all fired up. There's a war. So this is kind of going to be maybe part of the theme of this discussion today. There's a war on retail right now, and you can't see it. And we only saw the tip of the spear recently with AMC and BlackBerry, right? We saw it in the securities world and Robinhood and Citadel Securities. Guess who just entered crypto? Citadel Securities and Robinhood. Guess who's going to launch a non-custodial wallet in crypto? Robinhood. And, what is Robinhood's business model, lest we forget? It is selling the trade order flow data to their largest investor, Citadel, who uses that to usually, there's all different types of market makers. Like you said, they have far too much control. And, Doe may have suffered from his hubris and flown too close to the sun, but, the size was not size and all this stuff. He didn't see it coming. He was tricked, right? But at the same time, he also had there's lots of people, I have large market maker friends and we'd all agree his system was flawed, right? And yeah, he was tricked. That's kind of, how it works. Citadel has, and I guess I have to be careful here, right? But, they entered the market. They took a short, for those that don't know, they took a massive short positions on weak stocks, and they were basically preying on a lot of retail traders, and the retail traders figured that out and organized on Reddit and basically flipped the shorts, causing Citadel to lose billions. And there was, these stocks mooned or whatever, right? After that, people realized that how fixed the game was because Robinhood and a lot of other apps shut off trading, which actually harmed retail. So these apps, a lot of these apps are like very anti-retail, right? Coming from that world. So what is a non-custodial crypto wallet going to do? Maybe sell MEV data, right? And Citadel's first entry into the space, so I heard, and they haven't publicly admitted this, so it's all rumor, speculation, full disclosure, but I believe they were involved in the UST Luna short. I heard at the Bitcoin Miami conference, they were there, asking questions and things like that about Luna and how these things work. So I just want to say, we're learning that different platforms have, used the customer as the product. And really, in the case of Luna and UST, people were saying that where does the Anchor, where does this come from? And Anchor was like a real lending platform, but I guess it was subsidized by, outside funds, right? To get that 20% just flat fixed rate. So I just want to say, we have to evolve our systems. We have to realize that there, as consumers and as people out there that are into crypto, we really have to make smart choices. We have to support the platforms that are transparent and give us the trust, right? Like Lunar Crush, where we can get all the data, we can find out what's going on. When it comes to stable coins, when it comes to trading apps, we should pick the companies that have really stood by customer service and like MetalPay and stood by their customers, right? Because if you're cannibalizing the customer, how long can that go on for before the brand is tarnished, right? So and also on the topic of stable coins, I think people really need to have in app, and this is something we're working on at Metal, put in the app like the risk disclosure, explaining what type of stable coin it is, how it works, that type of thing. And it's another reason we're building Metal Dollar on Proton is we really should have more options. And like you said, there were all those UST pairs. In the future, I think, what's going to happen, and something like Metal Dollar is going to become very big because you have a DAO that can use reserve-backed assets. And we should use reserve-backed assets if we're parking it there in stables. I think synthetics are an experiment, and they can be used to gain, for example, in the case of DAI or something like that. But the seniority share models are very very, very risky, and they should have disclaimers on them on all platforms, really.
Mars, a great point. And if you think about it, how is something an algorithmic stablecoin when, in order to support the peg, you have to sell $1 billion of Bitcoin in the open market and buy a bunch of UST on centralized exchanges?
Well, that was the trick. That was the trick by the market makers, right? So,
right.
You know, Doe, like, he had drank like his own, you know, ego juice or whatever, and he was just flying high, right? And there was nothing that could stop him, right? And so these traders knew that, and they also, the funny part about it was they also knew that they also knew that they couldn't essentially short it that easily and enter into it by essentially, you know, they have to acquire a lot of Luna, which would have driven up the price. So that OTC trade for all of that Bitcoin was kind of like the bait, right? Like, hey, you know, you want to do this huge, large block order OTC trade. Once they had that, they were in those market makers' hands, aka Citadel, these other, you know, and there's a lot of big ones out there. What's the, you know, I know Galois was big about it. I'm a big fan of them. What's the one big trader? I'm blanking on his name right now. His photo's the bird on Twitter, but he's born again or something. I forgot his name. Great Revival or something. Anyways, he, you know, they saw it coming. They had enough Bitcoin. They knew they could short the market, and, you know, whatever, Bitcoin will bounce back. It's resilient, but it's going to break the peg on Luna because Doe's going to have to sell that Bitcoin. What he should have done, is just let them break the peg on Luna. I mean, I could be wrong here, but he was in an impossible situation because the system was flawed. But let the peg break on Luna and wait, right? I think that probably ultimately that Bitcoin could be worth more than the UST. Most likely. Historically, yes, right? The fatal flaw was to give into the fear, give into the, you know, oh no, I have to sell all this Bitcoin now. And that was exactly what the market makers wanted to do. And, you know, I'd be crazy to think that there weren't factions involved that want to see stable coins on the private, in the private forum, and also the non-reserve backed. There's a war in stable coin land, synthetic versus reserve backed. You know, I think there was a big win there. And you saw a huge outflow out of USDT, and you see Jeremy Allaire on Twitter, you know, huge inflows into USDC because it's reserve backed and it's now becoming like the new king, right? So I'm a big believer in reserve backed. I also think there's a war on stable coins. And I think, you know, I guess here's another prediction. I also am a big believer in CBDCs, but, you know, to quote Tom Emmer, we really need to protect the privacy of the American public. If it's open, free, and private, then, you know, I support it. Emmer supports it. People in crypto should support it. But my prediction is that as the CBDs start to come online, watch as you'll see various countries, regulators start to crack down on the private stablecoins because it is competition, right?
Watch them also crack down on what they allow you to buy and not buy.
Hoping not, you know, but that's definite, and that has been the case for a while, right? Of you know, on the security side, you know, and the former security SEC commissioner said in a statement, Hinman, and this has become part of the Ripple case, cryptocurrencies can what they call transmogrify over time, so they can move from a security to a commodity and so forth. But, you know, what I was working on with and I just retweeted this the other day, the Cryptocurrency Act 2020, it wasn't popular at the time. People said, oh, you know, how dare you classify these things and assign regulators? But turns out, you know, I was right, because if we don't do that, we're going to have some blow-ups. We always do in crypto. Anybody that's been around here for a while knows that. That's like part of the space. We have great moments and we have big blow-ups, and it's all very dramatic. But how do we protect ourselves from knee-jerk reactions to, you know, oh, all stable coins are bad now, or you can only buy Bitcoin? I know that's probably not going to happen, but in New York, for example, the bit license has become so restrictive. It's very, very difficult for any cryptos to, you know, survive in that environment, and for innovation to survive. So I think that we do need to have, you know, clear guidelines of different types of stable coins, who are their assigned regulators, paths to launching. Like I want to applaud Hester Pierce at the SEC for saying, you know, we should have a grace period for new cryptos, right? Where they have some time to achieve decentralization, and then You have agencies defining what is decentralization. We know what it is in our communities, and we're going 100 times, 1,000 times the speed of financial innovation prior to 2009. But how, can we go faster while being responsible, right? And maybe not, but I think that one way to that is by regulators giving that clarity. And I think that unfortunately what's going to end up happening is, like you said, there's going to be knee-jerk reactions, and you may be kind of forced into like what you can buy based upon where you live.
And Marshall,
think that
but
sucks.
if you think about it, it's like, and look at what's about to happen right here. It's like, that's just the US, right? And it's like and just to go back to some of the centralized exchanges, like, I definitely have it written on a notepad, and I can prove that I've kind of called it here, but look at what's happening with UST and Luna right now. They're creating a Luna Classic, UST Classic, and all Doe had to do was go get a couple of the main centralized exchanges to agree to now relist the new asset. They can go take a snapshot of like an hour before, they can fork it, and then they get Binance and OKX just announced 8 minutes ago that they're going to do it. They're potentially going to just snap their fingers and recreate this. And it's like, on one hand, it's like fantastic. People get their money back. On the second hand, you're kind of like, what? They're taking a brand that was created and that is out there that, now has kind of failed in a way. Whether it was attacked or not, or what was going on, probably was, but it's like, I don't know if this other route is right either, right? But it just goes to show that it's like, hey, if I can go get the New York Stock Exchange to say that, my stock is worth $50 a share based on whatever else is out there, like now I have a $50 billion company. And so this is going to be interesting to see what happens here, because of course people are going to vote to approve this new token. Like, why not? Oh, I have an opportunity to get my money back. Yeah, absolutely. I'm voting for that. So I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens here and how quickly, like you're saying, everything's happening so fast. It's like, how would you even regulate against that? Can people in the US now not participate and log in with their decentralized wallets to get access to potentially whatever airdrop is out there? And then, but at the end of the day, who makes the most off of this? The same people that were pushing Terra and Luna at 4 cents, saying, are you going to go Lambo? Or are you going to go like live on the streets? Like, there's exchanges saying this out there when it was at 4 cents and people got ruined. And they're them and the market makers right now are about to make more money off of what's about to happen with Luna Terra. So I know we're veering off here, but I think it's really important.
I want to say, and like what you said, so I don't want to be all doom and gloom here, because on one hand, I agree that, like, I think there's a war on retail, right? There's a war on retail going on, and you need to go to Lunar Crush and read what people are saying, right? And get the data, and you need to use platforms like MetalPay that are not coaxing you, what to do, just giving you the platform. I think that people need to take it slow with some of these things. And when it comes to the innovation around something like Terra, it's cool what happened, but I think ultimately, or it's not cool what happened. It's cool what was built. There's this network with a synthetic dollar, but I think that it took off very quickly because of the greed, and now you have this kind of race back into, let's create this so we can get some exit liquidity so we can leave. Or is it a real revival, right? And people are going to try and build on it. So I really don't know. I really couldn't tell you. This has been really interesting for me to watch, and I'm honestly not sure. But I do believe in the power of community. And if there are a lot of people building on this thing and they have different apps and they're reviving it, then that's great. I ultimately think what should happen is that TFL and Doe, they should be reduced, right? Like there should have been some vote to, in my opinion, reduce or completely kind of wipe it, and then they should be able to kind of come back if they want to, if the community wants it, grant it back to them. But I don't think that it should be like, let's start over with the same ratios, because I don't know if it was managed properly from the core dev team there. I think obviously not, right? And I think there could be criminal actions, it sounds like I was reading, that could come in Korea and stuff like that. It's not a good look for the space. So, but at the same time, I do believe in revivals, right? And I do believe in community kind of driven things. But, you know, the big question is this BitConnect 2.0, right? If you remember that when BitConnect collapsed and they're like, wait, it's coming back. No, It's not. It is definitely not coming back. This is different because I think BitConnect was just a website or something. Was there even ever a blockchain there?
I know. Whatever that meme was of that one guy, I forget, like what his name
Carlos
was.
Matos.
Yeah, Matos. That's that's one of our favorites.
What's up? Crypto never disappoints, but I think ultimately, to end this on a high note, what I will say is that crypto is a resilient, evolving organism. And whether Terra 2.0 collapses or not, these lessons will be learned and absorbed, and we're going to get stronger and stronger. And I think what we as a community in the crypto community need to recognize is the war on retail, the bad behavior, the bad stuff. Recently, I've been really liking a lot of one of the Dogecoin founder, Billy Marcus's tweets, because he's just been so real, with people. We've got to be more real, and we got to stop chasing gains. We got to start chasing knowledge. And I keep saying it over and over and over, but I think especially during the bear markets, my words are hitting now.
Hear, hear.
He's got such a great account. I love Billy M2K, whatever his account is. Awesome.
You got to just have fun with it. You got to have fun, whether things are going up or whether we're going down. If we're having fun, we're winning. If we're all focused on profits and blaming and, or the opposite, irrational exuberance, it's not fun, right? We got to get back to fun. I just want to say Lunar Crush is great for me because when I get on it, it's like, I really can see all the positive trends of different cryptos that I want to look at. I can see the criticisms, and I can sort through the top influencers and go see what they're saying. You want to have fun with it, right? And that's what, for me, crypto is about really enjoying the experimentation in the community and stuff like that. I hate all the financial noise. It's cool, but it's very distracting, right?
I want to touch on one thing that we just recently launched, and you just mentioned the word noise. And, we 2 days ago, we called it Lunar Crush Sparks. And, on the front end, it looks very simple. It looks like a thumbs up and a thumbs down on the dashboard, which are on our dashboard. It's a feed of the latest news, posts, insights, and various things out there. We built models to clean data, remove spam, remove bots as best we can, right? And there's kind of, you sort of hit these upper limits of what you can do, and we need the help of the community. And what's been so interesting is the community's going in and they're reporting on maybe when something is not classified properly, if it's spam, if it's hate or whatever it is, or if it's valuable. And so it's been so interesting. I mean, I need to look at the numbers, but hundreds of thousands in just the last few days here. But we're literally training at scale across millions of users right now. And so what that means is it means that as the data comes into Lunar Crush, the system gets smarter and smarter over time. And what that means is that you could translate that out to more accurate metrics across every coin, more accurate metrics across every influencer, stronger insights. And so we're super excited about it. Yes, that's what it's all about.
End the bots, please.
That's the goal.
Awesome. Cool. Well, look, that brings us towards the end. So, look, we just want to thank you so much, Joe, John, for coming along today and speaking with us. Love what you're doing. Really looking forward to see how it progresses. And yeah, thanks a lot.
Of course.
We appreciate it. We always have fun chatting with you guys. Come back on to Lunar Crush Live whenever you want. Let us know.
Oh, we'll be there for sure. Cheers, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
See y'all.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.